What's up, y'all? Eric Moser here with Covert Conversations. We have so much to get to. I originally started off just planning on discussing one or two topics, mainly what's going on in Iran with their threats towards the U.S., and particularly California. But I was out and about when I got home. I see that we have an active shooter attack at Old Dominion University. We had a shooter ram his vehicle with explosive device, another terror attack that took place in Michigan at a Jewish temple. What is going on here, y'all? But have no fear. We are here to break this all down. Stick with me, Eric Muldrow, a retired Las Vegas Metro police officer, as I give you my take. And honestly, we're going to be learning about a lot of this at the same time, because much of this is news to me. But we're going to jump off with a little details about the Old Dominion shooter. And as a former soldier, this one particularly kind of hits home. So what we know so far about the Old Dominion University shooter, this is the first details that I was able to scrounge up. They say he was ID'd as Mohammed Jalio. Excuse me, let me make that a little bit bigger so I can make sure I see that. Just the opposite of what I wanted. Mohammed Jalio, former Army National Guardsman, convicted of attempting to provide material support to ISIS. He's a naturalized citizen from Sierra Leone, and he was released from prison in 2024. My mind is already blown because I'm wondering how in the world do you have charges like that? You're not even a U.S. citizen, or you're not even a full-blown citizen. You're a naturalized citizen. You have charges like that, and you're able to remain in the United States, and you didn't get deported, or you're even able to get out. Someone help me with that, because honestly, my mind is blown. I'm confused as to how this could even be a thing. But let's not worry about those details. Let's get into even more details. Let's see what we know so far about this individual. Let's see what his motivations were. Hopefully we can get some details. I appreciate y'all joining me. You could be anywhere, but you decided to take your time, spend some time with me as we work through this crazy day together. Much appreciated. But let's dive in, shall we? Let me know if that's big enough for y'all. I can always make it bigger.
Now, with breaking news.
I tried to go back to my dorm. Everything was shut off. So we told her to leave our stuff. We got outside to the parking garage, and that's when we got told that there was an active shooter.
Breaking news right now at 4. Tragedy in our community. One victim is dead, 2 others injured after a shooting on the campus of Old Dominion University.
Students are sharing their fear and shock as police report the gunman in the shooting is dead.
No matter whether it's on Bagnall Road at 1 o'clock in the morning or in Constant Hall, if somebody's dead, that person's somebody's baby.
First responders and Norfolk investigators breaking down what happened this morning while the ODU community remains rattled.
And just into the News 3 newsroom, this is an incredibly fluid situation. We now know the name of the gunman in today's shooting at Old Dominion University, and we have a look at some of the chaotic moments following the shooting at the university's business school in Constant Hall.
So CBS News says law enforcement sources say Mohammed Baylor Jallo, a former Virginia National Guardsman, is the shooter. They say Jallo grew radicalized while serving in the Virginia National Guard between 2009 and 2015. We also have learned from our partners at CBS News that he pleaded guilty in October of 2016 to attempting to provide material support to ISIS and spent several years in federal prison before being released in December of 24.
We just got
several years in federal prison. So 2016, 10 years, that's all you get. Man, you need to get up out of here. And it was mentioned that he was released under the Biden administration. I'm not trying to play political games, but could that have something to could politics have played a role in why he was basically treated with a slap on the hand? Now, someone may say 10 years is a long time, but you are attempting to provide information to a sworn enemy of our country. Why are you still here? Why were you not relieved of your citizenship and booted the heck out of here? Somebody please help me understand that.
Got this in, and I'm going to read some of this off of my laptop that is reportable, that according to CBS sources, the subject walked into Constant Hall and asked if this was an ROTC class, and when someone responded that it was, the subject opened fire, fatally injuring the class instructor, who was a retired Army officer.
They're also saying that the two other people who were injured in the shooting and their condition, they're working to get, now there are partners here in Norfolk at Centura, we're working to get updates about how the two people who were injured are doing. Again, the gunman who is dead has been identified as Mohammed Baylor Jallow, born in 1989. As we've said, one victim has died, two others are injured.
And as a former active shooter response officer, that was one of the many jobs I did. I was never content with just doing one thing. But as a former active shooter response officer, this is real. Another reason this hits home is because I think so many people are unprepared for the possibility. And considering what we've went through, we already were under a consistent threat as U.S. citizens. A lot of the Islamic nations, they can't stand us. But especially in the middle of a battle, a conflict with Iran, and not to mention, again, I have to say this, even though this situation doesn't necessarily fit that, but I have to bring up the fact that our borders were wide open, y'all. We've dodged a couple of bullets. This situation was bad, but it could have been way worse. What we're going to talk about in Michigan with the mosque, well, not the mosque, the Jewish facility being attacked, that could have been way worse. I heard no one but the shooter got killed, thankfully. The incident in the synagogue, the incident in New York just this past weekend where the attempted bombing, eventually our luck is going to run out and there's going to be a mass casualty event. I don't say that with any glee, but it's just a numbers game. We opened our borders wide open, y'all, wide open, and let God knows who into our country under the last administration. Y'all can hate on Donald Trump all you want, but him seeking to shut down the border and limit the threats and kick these people out was a good thing. It is a good thing. And I'm here for it. And I want to see more personally, because this is what we may be facing. Not may. It's just a matter of time before this situation or situations like this only happen more often. So let's share a little more information. Let's see what else we can find out about this Old Dominion shooting. Read a little bit. Hopefully y'all can see that. If not, I'll read it. Make myself a little smaller for y'all. Again, he was identified as Mohammed Jallow, former National Guard member, ISIS supporter. He was here. Jalal, 36, was sentenced to 11 years in prison in 2017 for attempting to provide material support for ISIS. Mind-boggling. That's all he got. The FBI is investigating a shooting at Old Dominion University in Virginia on Thursday as an act of terrorism after the suspected gunman was identified as former National Guard soldier convicted of supporting ISIS. Weird how a lot of people aren't showing his image, but I had to go to X. Again, y'all, if you don't have an X account, get one just for news stories. You're almost guaranteed to get the latest scoops and the latest information on what's happening around the world. Multiple federal sources confirmed to Fox News that the suspected shooter, I already read that, J-Lo was convicted for his involvement in supporting the Islamic State, was released from prison approximately 15 months before the fatal shooting at Washington, D.C. So my man was barely out a year, just a little over a year before he decided. So you know this was brewing in his head already. A spokesman with the Virginia National Guard confirmed to Fox News Digital that Jallo served from April 2009 to April 2015. And here's another thing, y'all. This is something that I know the gangs, when I used to do gang investigations, gang intelligence back at the jail, when I worked at the Clark County Detention Center here in Vegas, there was a thing where gang members would send some of their members, the leaders would send some of their members to join the Marine Corps, the Army, so they could pick up and learn some of these tactical skills. Now, I don't know what says that he was a combat engineer, but everyone receives, and combat engineering involves a lot of construction type work. I'm not sure if it involves explosives. I know that it's definitely the case in special operations, but I'm not so sure about your run-of-the-mill, so to speak, combat engineer in the Army, in the regular Army. But you would think so, because they deal with explosives. Because when we were in Desert Storm, I remember engineers would go ahead of us and pave a lot of these roads or create roads for travel. And I'm sure there were many concerns about IEDs at the time. So you would think that this guy there's a good chance he definitely picked up some basic combat skills, which everyone goes through, basic training. And post the war on terror, everyone got better tactically, even people who were not combat arms in particular. And he held the rank of specialist when he left with an honorable discharge. Hopefully that was revoked, but that's neither here nor there. All right. In 2017, Jallo was sentenced to 11 years in prison plus 5 years supervised release. That didn't work out too well, for attempting to provide material support to ISIS, according to the Department of Justice. He was released from jail in December of 2024. Every time I read that, it just pisses me off, because I'm like, how was this guy allowed to stay here? I know I sound like a broken record, but how? He was originally arrested on July 3rd, 2016, after authorities said he tried to help procure weapons for what he believed would be an ISIS-inspired attack on U.S. soil, and separately attempted to send money to support ISIS. Lord, oh my goodness. The more I read, the angrier I get, y'all. 11 years. They should have locked him up and thrown away the key. According to the Justice Department, Jallo was compelled to leave the U.S. military after he began listening to online lectures of al-Qaeda cleric Anwar al-Awlaki. The department also said Jallo praised the July 2015 terror attack in Chattanooga, Tennessee, when a gunman opened fire and killed 4 U.S. Marines and a Navy sailor. Jallo also shared that he had been thinking about conducting an attack similar to the attack at Fort Hood, Texas in 2009, which killed 13 people and wounded 32. Let me ask you a question, y'all. How many of y'all can honestly say, or would honestly say, if challenged, you would have some idea of what to do in an active shooter encounter? I'd love to know. So post it in the chat or in the comments. In a statement on social media, FBI Director Kash Patel said the agency is now investigating the shooting as an act of terror. Earlier today, and okay, we already read that. We already read those details. I'll finish off here. The FBI is now investigating the shooting. Our Joint Terrorism Task Force is fully engaged, embedded with local authorities. Yeah, I mean, just look at what's going on here in the comment section. 11 years in prison. It's nuts. Anyone with common sense is going to be dumbfounded as to what happened. Anybody with common sense is going to be utterly confused as to how he was able to get away with this. What do you think, y'all? Like, honestly, what are your opinions as to how he was able to basically get away with terror? Honestly, because that's the only way you can explain it. It just does not make sense to me. But we're going to continue on. My heart just goes out to the victims and everyone involved. This reminds me of when the scripture talks about certain people, sinful, lawless people. Let's see if I can pull that text up, that scripture about who doesn't understand justice. Let me see, Proverbs 28:15. Let me pull that up real quick because I find it very fitting in situations like this, in particular, especially in this case. Proverbs 28:15. Hopefully that's on the screen for y'all. Yep. This New King James is one of my favorites. Evil men do not understand justice, but those who seek the Lord understand all. Now I know the Proverbs are kind of like not always. They don't necessarily explain how things will always be. They're like general principles when it comes to our understanding. Now some of them can be, but it's more of like advice for general ways to live. Like when the scripture says, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. That's not always the case because some people are trained in the scriptures and walk away from the faith. So the Proverbs, general principles about how believers should live. But I think this right here really nails it 100% on the head, talking about evil people don't understand justice. Because that's the only explanation. That's the only way you can explain somebody like this being allowed on the streets. Lord have mercy. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. Again, this situation going on, or these situations going on around the country, I'm just learning about a lot of these. But we're going to jump into the synagogue shooting. Read this article here from, let's pull up this video. And then we'll read an article from the Daily Mail if that'll help us out any. Nope, don't need that.
Let's bring in Darren Porcher, former NYPD lieutenant. And Darren, AP is now confirming that the suspect is dead.
Yeah, John, I think that this is a positive outcome that the suspect has been neutralized. But the testament that we really need to support is that relationship between police and law enforcement, how they have that recurring training between the two entities, because that's going to be paramount. Often,
I think it meant the police and the public, because police and law enforcement are the same things.
Times these religious institutions, such as what we see here on television,
or religious
have
groups,
hired ex-police officers who are skilled and have a genuine understanding in how to provide the fortification in the buildings such as what we see here. These religious institutions have been under siege. And when we look at and when we read the tea leaves from what happened in the Tree of Life shooting, it was something that led us to believe that we need to do more to fortifying these types of locations. So fortunately, no one was hurt. And I'm thankful that the assailant in this particular case didn't do a recon, because had he waited at a longer point in the time of the day, there would have been more victims. So we were fortunate enough that this appears to be a lone wolf attack. So what we're going to do now is something we refer to as a backwards investigation. That's going to start with capturing video at the scene, coupled with going into this individual's cell phones and also connecting with people that do have a relationship with this person to find out how far back the planning took place and how it manifested into the combustible situation that we see on television.
I recall a few years ago, this is related, but somewhat not, but hear me out. Can you recall back 6 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe further back? Actually, you probably can go all the way back 10 years when there was all this anti-police rhetoric going on. I remember dudes like Lecrae writing articles, or at least talking about how much he hated seeing the police being militarized. You remember when all that talk was going on? This is why the police are militarized. We had an attempted bombing the other day. We have active shooters. Somebody rammed their vehicle. This story right here in the synagogue in Michigan, rams their vehicle with explosives into the vehicle, comes out and tries to engage, tries to shoot. The police are militarized because the enemy is becoming better armed and better equipped. And there is a reality to terror in this world, here in the United States. And if the police are just walking around with black and whites and handguns, and they don't have the body armor, the armored vehicles, and the tools to take down a heightened threat, it's like people have totally forgotten about 9/11, completely forgotten about it. It's like they've completely forgotten about all the terrorist attacks that happen around the country, that happen around the world. They ignore the fact that we had wide open borders for years. Common sense flies out the window when people start talking, because people allow their emotions to get involved. And many of the people who are put in positions as quote unquote experts or key opinion leaders, whatever you want to call them, they have no tactical knowledge whatsoever. They have no understanding of what threats there are in the public square, none whatsoever. So the idea of a police officer walking around with a heavy flak vest or an AR-15 terrifies them, and they would much rather be secure in their emotions and in their feelings than they would be comfortable knowing that that us as citizens are protected, because that's the most important job for a government, is to protect their citizens. And if a government can't do that, then what good are they? Which is why I always make such a big deal about what happened in the Biden administration. He put our country in harm's way by his careless handling of the border. Now, I know there was a bigger agenda, no doubt about it, that they had. I'm not saying that in any way to justify it, but they did not consider the danger that we face now more than ever. And I know it won't happen, but I truly wish these people would face charges for what they did, the threats, the risk they put us in.
Thankfully, this came to an appropriate end, but we still need to continue to provide the necessary fortifications, because at this point in time, we're at war, and we've heard statements that have come from Iran that made mention to the propensity for attacks in the homeland. So now is the time for us to do what's right to protect our United States, as well as institutions of this magnitude.
Darren, just a little bit more information about Temple Israel. It calls itself the nation's largest Reform synagogue, 12,000 members. It has an early childhood education center and offers educational programs for families as well as adults. The synagogue says it is passionate about helping Jewish communities across the globe. It has been growing in number, notably, and it says its mission is to create a community building through the lens of Reform Judaism. The Jewish Federation of Detroit has advised all Jewish organizations in the area now to go into lockdown, a lockout protocol. Nobody in or out of your building. You just imagine, Darren, that Jewish communities, synagogues all over the country are going to increase their security, and terribly, they're going to live in fear following another incident like this.
Well, Sandra, when we look to the anti-Semitic behavior on a global perspective, it's clear that the Jewish community has been under siege. So they've been very good in hardening their workplace or institutions of religious learning, such as what we see on television. And it's unfortunate society has come to this point, but I will say that the Jewish community is doing a tremendous job in hardening their facilities to assist or prevent attacks of this magnitude being far more catastrophic.
And of course, those who are ultra critical of Israel, I'm cool with anybody being criticized. I actually read my Bible and I understand how sinful Israel can be, but they're no different than any other individual, any other nation, any other people group. They are no different. We all have a tendency to want to fall into idolatry. We all have fallen short of God's glory. So for those who put a special hate or disgust or disdain, however you want to term it, dislike towards Israel, towards Jews, it doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So therefore, the historical hatred towards the Jewish community leads to stuff like this. Again, you can question Israel. You can question their ties to the U.S. I'm cool with all that. I'm cool with those questions. But people get carried away. When you got clowns, and yeah, I'm calling her a clown, clowns like Candace Owens, who wants to link them to every problem in the world, every problem in history. It's like, what are you doing? Like, how ignorant is that? Like, honestly. I just don't see it. And that type of hatred leads to potentially can lead to how blacks were treated historically, how Native Americans were treated historically, how you name it, how whites are to some degree being treated now, how they have also historically, because every group in the world just about has enslaved and been enslaved. So I'm just not into this selecting one group as extra specially bad and particularly bad. One group of people based on where they live or whatever their justification is for it. But all it does is open the door to this kind of nonsense. And you have people out there who are fully indoctrinated. And let's call it for what it is, y'all. Islam is not a religion of peace. Let's not even try that. Let's not even act like that's the thing anymore. And if you go back into history, I'm not talking about 1948 or even a few years prior to that, a few hundred years. You go back to the history of Islam. Islam has has spread through violence historically. There is no getting around that. We can try to sugarcoat things to try to make them look good or not, or protect them because people have been vilifying them. Do yourself a favor. Go to the website, religionofpeace.com. The religionofpeace.com. I think it is the Religion of Peace or Religion of Peace. Check it out. And they have a history, a massive list of the terrorism-related attacks that were inspired by Islam.
We're fortunate we've only had the shooter neutralized and no one else. Remember, 1,200 people had the propensity to come to this location at a later time throughout the course of the day. John, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say, yeah, to your point there, in the aerial shots that we see of the synagogue, there do appear to be bollards on the concrete pathway areas in between the driveway and the building itself. You can see their sort of center screen, you see a couple of police cars, and on the the paved area, the concrete pathway leading to where you see the smoke. There's a couple of things there just off the sidewalk. Those appear to be bollards, those small ones. And then larger bollards you see on the right-hand side of your screen. That's to prevent vehicle-borne attacks. I mean, again, that's part of where we have come.
Why is it that these Jewish schools seem to be the only ones that are really fortifying and protecting their kids? Why is that? Why can't we learn from that here in the U.S.? Why can't we fortify our schools like that? Does it make people feel uncomfortable? Would you rather be left to feel uncomfortable? Would you rather feel uncomfortable, or would you rather have the confidence in knowing that your kids are protected in the best way possible? I don't get it. Like, honestly, I don't get it. Why haven't we done more? And I know the other side will say, well, we need to remove guns. Like, you honestly believe the good guy is just going to give up his guns because there's a new law? You think somebody like this is just going to hand over their gun because the laws have changed? You really believe that? I hope you're not that naive, honestly. They're not going to do it. The good people would hand over their guns, some of them. Some of us may not do it because we're more focused on protecting those we love, those we care about. But the good folks will be the ones turning in their guns. The bad guys aren't going to do it. They're bad guys. Come on. Check out this message here. What's up, Paul? Common factor in most of these incidents, terrorists were contacted or watched by the feds. Yeah, whatever that means. That doesn't even mean anything anymore. Nothing or little was done. Like the UK, citizens are the problem, not the invaders. Are you saying that's what the UK is saying? That the citizens are the problem? Because if that's what you're saying, I agree 100%. People think that citizens are the problem, and there are some citizens that are problematic. But this whole idea that, because what's been going on nowadays, what's some of the rhetoric that's been going on now lately? Most citizens commit more crimes than aliens do, than immigrants. That only equates if you look at it if you bring in the aspect of legal citizenship. If you look at illegal citizenship, those numbers do not hold water. Illegal citizens, illegal immigrants commit overwhelmingly more crime than U.S. citizens do. And if you want to get more information about that, go to, what is it? I think it's John Lott. I have a book by him. His website is Crime Research and Crime Research and Prevention. I think that's it. Hold on one second. John Lott. His website. Crime Prevention Research Center. John Lott. Crime Prevention Research Center. Trying to pull it up on, well, I'll see if I can put it in the chat a little bit later on. Let's continue with this video here.
America, and you come to Washington, D.C., you see those literally lining every street where there's an important building because people are driving vehicles into buildings, all over the world. And many times they're laden with explosives. And if you can stop them from getting in the building, you can certainly dial down the potential for a catastrophic attack. But how that vehicle got in that building, I'm not sure, given that there did appear to be some barricade in front of the sidewalk there. Maybe drove under that tree, part of the grassy area there that is just off of the sidewalk. Not sure, Darren, but again, you talk about this idea of places like synagogues, churches having to protect themselves. This is part of the protection.
John, you're absolutely right. I live in New York City, and when you go through Times Square, or even if you go through the area of where Fox News is located, these bollards are being erected because this has now become the natural order of business as it relates to the fortification. People are weaponizing these vehicles and using them as something that can cause a severe injury or even death to whether it's the people on the street or the occupants of a building. But at the same token, this has become far more universalized as it relates to these balance, and it's here to stay. And I only see more coming in the future.
Okay, now I'm not sure what we know, how much we know about the shooter in this case. Let's check out one more article. I'll skim through it. From the Daily Mail. Yeah, let's pull this up here and see what we can find out. I really want to know what this guy's motivations were.
A car came to the facility, breached the facility by driving into it, was engaged by security. We believe there is one individual deceased in the vehicle. It's been complicated because there was some fire, to say the least, with that vehicle. We believe that individual is deceased. No kids, this is the important thing, no kids or no staff was injured whatsoever. Okay, so we have no victims other than one of the lead security people was hit by the car and was taken to the hospital for treatment. He breached the building, drove down the hall, and
wow,
and he was engaged by security.
Drove down the hall. Maybe I just didn't hear that. Let's scroll through this article here, see if we can get some info on the actual shooter. If not, then I'll take us over to X, and we'll see what we can find out. If you heard something that I may have missed, anyone who's listening, if you heard something as far as information on the shooter, let me know. In the Michigan synagogue attack. You know what? Matter of fact, it doesn't look like I can't see anything. I know I'm skimming through this pretty quickly. All right, let's pull out of here. I'm going to head on over to X real fast, see what I can find. Trending. Dearborn is where the other guy was. Type in synagogue. Let me go here. Breaking 911. It's good little source for news blurbs. 4 hours ago, they don't have anything new. Type in synagogue. Shooter. Latest. That's what I want. Let me take y'all along with me so you're not just seeing me typing. Take it to my X page. All right, let's see what we can find here. Might be some crazy stuff here, so hopefully nothing weird will show up. FBI held active shooter training at the temple in Israel 6 weeks ago. Okay, saying the shooter's dead. We have that. Is this him? According to News Channel 2 Now, Temple Israel synagogue shooter identified as Ayman Ghazali. West Bloomfield Township, Temple Israel suspect ID'd as Ayman Ghazali. Let's see if I can follow this link, y'all. Turn this off here. Where's that at? Why am I not clicked on the link? Why is that not coming up? Okay. All right, let's close this out. Share this new screen. Like I said, y'all, we're working through this together because a lot of this is news to me. Make my screen a little smaller. Okay, that's good. Temple Israel Synagogue shooter identified as Ayman Ghazali. Okay, I'll put the audio on in this here.
Temple Israel Synagogue shooter identified as Ayman Ghazali by Channel 2 Now staff. As investigators continue working to piece together the events surrounding the Temple Israel incident in West Bloomfield, the man believed to be connected to the attack has been identified by sources as Ayman Ghazali. The suspect died following reports of an active shooter at the synagogue, where police say a truck crashed into the building and shots were fired, triggering a large emergency response from local law enforcement and federal agencies. According to sources familiar with the situation, Ghazali had recently experienced a family tragedy overseas. 2 of his brothers and several nephews were reportedly killed days earlier in an Israeli strike in Meshagra, Lebanon.
Boom. Right there, y'all. If this is him, and I'm just going by what this news post, I can't confirm this. I haven't seen it from any other source, but that right there, that says a lot.
Lebanon. Authorities have not publicly confirmed the suspect's identity and have not said whether the deaths of Ghazali's relatives played any role in the incident in West Bloomfield.
How could it not, honestly? Especially if you believe Israel is like the great Satan or the little Satan. U.S. is the great Satan, as some people say. Yeah, you're going to be pretty upset.
Authorities in Michigan are investigating a serious attack at Temple Israel in West Bloomfield Township that occurred Thursday afternoon. According to multiple law enforcement sources, the vehicle involved in the incident is registered to a naturalized U.S. citizen originally from Lebanon who resides in Dearborn, Michigan. The incident began just after 12:30 p.m. when a suspect drove a truck into the synagogue, reportedly driving down a hallway inside the building. A security guard on site engaged the suspect, opening fire. The truck subsequently caught fire, and law enforcement confirmed the suspect is deceased.
They claimed that the vehicle had explosives in them, last I heard.
Security guard was struck by the vehicle and is currently hospitalized. No injuries have been reported among congregants, staff, or students. Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard stated that a lead member of the synagogue's security team was hit when the suspect breached the building, but emphasized that there were no other injuries among staff or children. Henry Ford Health confirmed that 8 first responders were treated at Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital and Henry Ford Providence Novi Hospital following the incident. Authorities have asked the public to avoid the area as they continue their investigation. In addition, law enforcement agencies are providing increased security at other local synagogues out of an abundance of caution. The Jewish Federation of North America has issued a nationwide advisory urging all Jewish organizations to implement immediate lockout procedures to secure facilities. FBI Director Kash Patel confirmed that FBI personnel are on the scene, working alongside state and local partners in response to the apparent vehicle ramming and active shooter situation. Temple Israel released a statement on Facebook confirming that all 140 students at its childhood center, as well as teachers and staff, are accounted for.
All right. Well, we got a little bit more insight into what went down. What my man John got to say, are we all sure is going to be an attack by Iran or another country to draw us into a war with Iran? We don't know. That's the unfortunate reality, John. We don't know. And I'm not like this ultra skeptical dude, but I understand that our country and any other country could be has deep levels of corruption. Not only want to say levels, they have deep levels of corruption. And I don't put anything past any nation. It could be a friendly nation who's doing this to push us in. We don't know. But I'm not going to assume everything to be a conspiracy theory. I'm not saying that's what you're saying. But until we get more information, I'm just going to keep my mind open and just pay attention to what's going on. But at the same time, we can't ignore the open threat that we've seen, man. And I'm not trying to fuss at you. I know you take a little bit of a different take when it comes to Israel and whatnot, and I get it, man. But so many people, and again, I'm not saying this is you, but so many people who are highly skeptical, let's put it that way, about Israel, don't understand Islam, don't get it. So many people don't get read the Quran. I'm saying this in general. I'm not just saying this to John. I'm saying this to everyone. Take time and read the Quran. Look at the history of Islam when it comes to this nation. Look at how there were times back in the day, it's in the Marine Corps song, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. They were dealing with Islamic terrorist attacks. And back then, our leaders didn't even know what was going on. They didn't understand. But if you understand how Muhammad looked at anybody Christian, or he wanted to be accepted by the Jews and the Christians. But when they did not accept him, he allowed that anger to turn to the point to where and so when if you were to read the Quran through a historical lens, as in what's the chronological perspective, you'll see he was very friendly towards the Jews and the Christians, and he even told them to read the text, read our Bibles to see whether the things that he said were true, which they aren't at all. And he grew to be hateful towards Jews and Christians, to the point to where he was writing that Jews and Christians are the worst of creatures. And that there are times where they actually speak about being violent, ending us. I'm trying to be mindful of my words on social media. But when they talk about ending the lives of Jews and Christians, and then when you just look at the historical way things went down over time, I'm telling you it. And of course, there might have been what's the word I'm looking for? People may have responded to some of the attacks in extreme levels or in extreme ways. But if you go, like I said, for anyone out there who's wondering about this whole issue, like what's going on, get a good understanding of Islam and their tactics and their history and how much they hate us. And I'm not saying that this is your neighbor who's a Muslim. I got friends who are Muslims, and I know they don't think like that about me, but many of them have been westernized to a large degree and born and raised here. But taking us back to what I've said in multiple episodes, we allowed ourselves to be very vulnerable over the last 4 years, or the previous administration. So for something like this to go down, heck, you can go, there's like an episode of Sean Ryan show where this one lady, I think she was some type of intel expert. She was talking about, it's just a matter of time, y'all. We are a very soft target, our country. Very, very soft target. Another country has tried to draw us into an attack on Egypt by attacking the U.S. liberty. And that was rectified, brother, if you don't know about that. Man, that was a long time ago, man, honestly. Islam believes in Jesus, but the Jewish people don't. Yeah, they believe in, everything that we believe when it comes down to, and that's honestly doesn't matter, because in this sense, and hear me out, you can still be evil and not believe in Jesus, because that once they believe in Jesus, but he is a watered down Gnostic version of Jesus. That's not the Jesus of the Bible. They don't believe he was crucified. They don't believe he was God in the flesh. They think it is. They don't believe he was the Son of God. And if you read First John, the Gospel of First John, and while we're at it, let's do a little Bible study here. First John, Antichrist. Who is the Antichrist? As according to First John. Hopefully, I can pull it up while I'm here. Let's see what we got here. I don't even know where I'm at, what page I'm on. Let's see here. Let me see. Specific verse I'm looking for. All right, let me see here. There we go. Perfect, just what I'm looking for. Share screen. And do yourself a favor, anyone's listening or watching. Go to Bible Hub. Yeah, here we go. I think that's it. Hopefully y'all can see that. If you can't see that, I'll make my big head a little smaller. And I'll read it to you. But again, read as you go along. Right here it says, who is a liar but he who denies that Jesus is the Christ? He is the Antichrist who denies the Father and the Son. And for anyone to even say that God has a son, or that God could be referred to as a father, is the height of blasphemy in Islam. They deny the very means by which God saves mankind. They deny it. And the Jews do too, by rejecting the Savior. So they're in no better boat, honestly. But I'm talking about when we specifically look at history and how they have historically attacked us and they look at us as a Christian nation. Now, I know we were founded on those values as a Christian nation, but we haven't exactly lived up to it historically. But we do a pretty decent job. I mean, I don't even want to say that, because I'm not trying to minimize how far we are as a nation when it comes down to our sin. I'm not trying to minimize that. All I'm saying is just that, hold on, let me get that out of here. All I'm saying is just that if people want to look down on Israel because they reject Jesus, then we have to look down on everybody, because the Bible says in the book of Romans, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Everybody. No one is exempt. Nobody's better. And even if you say you believe, the book of James said, if you say you believe, you do well. But he said, but even the demons believe and tremble. So demons believe in Jesus, but obviously he can't save them. They won't worship him. So we have to be consistent with our theology, with our understanding, and we also have to be consistent with our history. Where we at, brother? Much love to you too, man. We're just having a conversation, man. I'm not upset. I'm not angry by any stretch of the imagination. I just get passionate about this topic because I think there's an unfair amount of criticism, in my opinion, when it comes down to the nation of Israel. That's all. What you got here? Jews have written the non-Jews are dogs, i.e. the Talmud. But that's, again, like I said about Israel, like I said about Islam, that's not every one of them. Not every Jew is a Talmudic Jew. Not every one of them. It's a collection of writings for over hundreds of years. What's up, Lon? Good seeing you. That what happens when you start leaving God out of the equation. No doubt about that, brother. Jewish people think Jesus is boiling in hell in the vat. Not every Jew thinks that. Not every Jew thinks that. There are different types of Jews. You have rabbinic Jews, you have Talmudic Jews, you have Reformed Jews. It's like trying to say that every Muslim believes the same thing. Even though it's like if you got black Muslims, you have Shia, you have Sunni Muslims. At the core, there's Muhammad, there's Allah, but there's a lot of variation there within their beliefs. So we can't just make these blanket statements. Come on, brother. And I also know some Jews personally who may be watching or not, who are Messianic Jews, and they accept Jesus Christ as Savior. So we can't put this blanket thing out there talking about these people. And even if people, and there are people out there who don't even look, they think Jesus is cool. I'm cool with Jesus. I'm talking about secular people who may not even be Jesus haters, but they reject him. They reject the gift that he offered for our salvation. So they are in the same boat. If you reject the offer, the only gift that God has given for the remission of our sin, the blood of Jesus on the cross, whether you hate God or whether you're just kind of indifferent about him, you are in the exact same boat. We got to chat, man. We got to talk, John, me and you. We got to do it. We got to have a conversation. I'm not saying you're not. This conversation is for everybody listening. We're not the only ones in here chatting, bro. This conversation is for anybody listening. If you're going to read the Bible, then please read the Talmud also. You don't actually have to. I mean, it's good to understand. It's good to know, but you don't have to read it. Like you don't, like it's. I think it's good when we look at Islam as a whole, and we like who are the ones we get worried about blowing us up, like walking in with a bomb vest. Like honestly, that happens all around the world. Are those Jews or those Christians or those Muslims? Who's more likely to do that? That's all I want to say, man. All right, let's move on, y'all, because I got professing is not confessing. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. I got where we at? Because I got to talk about the topic that I came here for. I can't skip that topic because the thumbnail is about what's going on in the threats that Iran made about California. I'm telling y'all, we are in a crazy time. That's the only way to put it. We're in some crazy times right now. All right, where was I? Here we go. Yes, a couple of days ago, I'm thinking Iran made some threats saying that they were going to use drones to attack California. I'm hearing bits and pieces here and there. Let's see what this video says.
Fury launched the war in Iran. And tonight, Bay Area law enforcement agencies say they have received a warning about the potential of drone strikes in California. Good evening. I'm Claudine Wong. The war in Iran is now in its 12th day. 7 U.S. service members have been killed, 140 injured. Officials in Iran say more than 1,200 people there have died in the Israeli and American airstrikes. And the Pentagon just announced the first week of the war cost the U.S. $11.3 billion. And now, here at home, we are getting warnings about the potential of danger in our communities. KTVU's Henry Lee joins us live with more on the alert and what Bay Area law enforcement agencies are being told to do. Henry?
Claudine, the alert is certainly alarming that Iran has at least...
One thing, John, I want to respond to what you said about Christians or spit on in Israel. I've seen videos. I've seen it, and that's very true. But compare that, and I'm not minimizing that, man. That's disgusting. That's evil for anybody to do that with anyone. But how are we treated in Islamic nations? How are we treated in Nigeria in comparison? How are we treated in Afghanistan or Yemen? I think in comparison, I'd rather be spit on than be executed for my faith. That's just me.
Potentially considered using drones off the coast of California to wage an attack to avenge U.S. military action. Local police departments say they're aware and working together to address this concern. The conflict in the Middle East now leading to potential threats of drone strikes by Iran in California. On Wednesday, Bay Area police agencies confirmed to KTVU they've received what's described as a cautionary warning with no evidence of any imminent attacks. The San Jose, Oakland, and San Francisco police departments all issuing statements saying they've been in contact with federal law enforcement about alleged drone threats that could impact the Bay Area, as first reported by ABC News. Oakland police say they were told there may be a heightened risk because of the situation in the Middle East and will monitor developments to determine if there's a need to increase police presence. I've confirmed that local agencies were told by the FBI that Iran allegedly aspired to conduct a surprise attack using unmanned aerial vehicles from an unidentified vessel off the coast of the United States homeland, specifically against unspecified targets in California, in the event that the U.S. conducted strikes against Iran. In San Francisco, the FBI declined to comment, but Mayor Daniel Lurie spoke out on the issue.
I've heard the same report, and we feel confident that we are on top of it, and we will always keep the people of San Francisco safe.
Governor Newsom saying he too is aware of the drone alert, and the state is.
Man, I'm telling you, of all states to do an attack like that, I don't see a better state. Honestly, they're soft on crime, especially with this clown right here leading the show. They waste money. They hate law enforcement. When you talk about from the top leadership, they're soft on crime. If this is legit, that's probably as soft a target as you can get.
It's prepared for any emergency.
Drone issues have been always top of mind, and we've assembled some work groups specifically around those concerns.
Newsom says he's directed the State Office of Emergency Services to elevate its security posture and to continue sharing information around the clock.
I think the threat is minimal.
Andrew Black is a former FBI agent in San Francisco who's now public safety chief at the University of Hawaii at Manoa.
I'm very doubtful they have the capability of striking the U.S. from unmanned aerial vehicles off the coast of California.
I'm not dismissing the possibility that it could occur.
Sharif Ibrahim is a former member of the UC Berkeley bomb squad.
But if it could elicit the fear of terror in the population of California, that has a greater impact than potentially the harm of a hobby drone carrying some kind of device.
Now, when I heard drone personally, I was thinking like in the thumbnail, a big drone. But if you use a series of smaller drones, the likelihood of getting away with something like that is way higher. Just got to, you have to know what you're doing. It can be scary, y'all, honestly. But good conversation. I really appreciate and love the conversation in the chat. John, again, man, I look forward to you and I, just chopping it up, bro. Like I said, even where we disagree, because you're my boy. You were there when I first started out there on the streets. Give me a hard time, I remember. But it's all good, man. It's all love. Only made me better. But everything that's going on. But I do want to say this, man. I agree with you 100%. We have to be leery because there are evil actors out there on both sides of the equation that may want to drive us into a war. That is a possibility. I don't deny that at all. We just have to be smart. And as much as I'm glad we're no longer under a Democratic-led administration, some of the things that Cash has done and hasn't done don't give me the best amount of confidence in a lot of these guys, him, Bondi, their leadership. I just don't necessarily have that. But thank you, dear. But man, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all joining me today. Hit me up in the chat or in the comments if you catch this video later. As you can see, I've been trying to make consistent videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays. in the next few days and next week, I should be putting out a lot more content. I'll be not just doing a live, I'll be chopping up some of these videos, and we can I can share just little snippets of each, so you don't have to sit back and watch the entire hour. But if you do want to watch the entire hour, I greatly appreciate it. I'm close to being monetized, so if you can give me a little extra love, play a video in the background while you're chilling out. It's one of my longer videos. Just help me get there a little bit quicker. But as always, y'all, I appreciate y'all, and stay safe. God bless, and make sure you join the conversation. I'll see you next week, Lord willing.